Hello, welcome to the Cornerbird stream. Picking up from previous stream. I think I was saying that I kind of want to maybe impart a lesson, like a small lesson from each stream. Or have like have the stream revolve around one learning point that I've made while doing my sculpt. But can't really think of what to teach today in regards to this. So I did some work at the gym yesterday while my boyfriend was working out, and I think the progress is going pretty well. I've done like bigger shapes on the edges of the skirt like this, and then like this one, yeah. So like focus on bigger shapes, and also in some of the old ones. Let me add this. Some of the old ones where the details were really tiny, I made them bigger by dragging them out like this. So at least it keeps the consistency. Like this one is pretty big already, so I think I don't need to touch this one. But yeah, I think the progress has been pretty good. You know, when I think about it after talking about this, probably the lesson that I want to share today would be how to blend this section right here to the back. So if you just look at this section here, I think especially this one, they're quite big, or like this one, the details are quite, or the patterns are quite large in comparison to like these, and this one is quite big, so I will need to find a way to blend it to this so that it feels more seamless and not out of place. So that's probably what I would demonstrate for this stream. And to anyone new to the stream, I'm Nadia, and I like to sculpt really detailed stuff. And I'm getting distracted again. I don't like this. And I like to stream my work in progress because I'm quite scared of making tutorial videos. But anyway, doing live streaming is just a way for me to kind of like just practice being comfortable, and also kind of like it makes me think about, because I'm talking while doing my work, it makes me think about what problems I encounter or what my workflow is like. It just makes me more conscious of these kind of things, and I think it would be pretty helpful if I finally get my ass around doing tutorial videos. I really do want to make the tutorial videos, I'm just procrastinating. Because I know like the live stream, they're probably like too windy, too long-winded and not really that kind of like straight to the point. But yeah, and I guess doing this live stream, I guess I want to contribute to kind of like show how I do my sculpts, and hopefully it'll be interesting to you to see sculpts like this that are very detailed, more similar to illustrations, and yeah, just sculpting. And I'm getting distracted. I'm trying to get my bearings because I just opened the file again. So as usual, there's a straight line here, so I need to destroy it. Something that I've mentioned in some of my older streams, but not in the previous one. I guess, yeah, was it yesterday that I streamed? I like the Apple Pencil Pro drag with the drag tool and with turning like this. Barrel roll, I guess. It's been really fun to work on the sculpt with my method of sculpting with the barrel roll. I feel like it kind of makes my life easier too, especially with the edges. And it's been really fun. So just wanted to point that out again in case you didn't know that it exists. And I think it's only Apple Pencil Pro probably because it needs the barrel roll. If you don't have the Apple Pencil Pro, you probably can't do it, and it's still fine. I managed to sculpt around without it too for a really long time. Just looking at the negative shapes and all that. So because the lesson that I want to impart today would be how I blend these areas to this area, which is more complete. And also because this took a really long time to sculpt. Just removing straight lines. I guess I still can't get used to the feeling of talking and sculpting at the same time. But I feel like I'm getting better at it. Like, I'm getting the practice in. So, this took a really long time to make. And, like, it's not realistic to do this for everything. And the other reason for not doing this kind of work on the back is because the blank areas, which I intend to keep pretty blank, are larger at the back pieces. So these are larger, this larger, this larger. This one's quite big. So if I apply details like this to like these, then there's going to be a really stark contrast between this, and you'll feel quite incomplete. So there's like things that I will have to think about when doing my own design. And I like to do this straight line. I like to do very detailed sculpting, same as how I do my drawings. But then wait, let me fix this real quick. But then I guess I have to think about like the time it takes to do these things, or distracted. Like another reason why I don't want to do this on the back is just thinking about how much time it will take to finish this. And in this year, I want to try and complete more projects instead of sticking to one and like polish the hell out of one project. So that's part of the decision making, where I decided after trying this out for the first time that I want to do something that's less time consuming at the back, but also complete this whole look. So it's just like it's just like a give and take kind of situation. And also, I think it will make it more interesting when like the front is like this, but the back is the details are a bit different, like a variation of the front, because variations are always good. And the lesson that I want to impart would be to blend these two together, right? But before that, I'll need to finish up all these areas here, which I'm not done yet. And just a quick recap, I like to use the drag tool, the planar tool, with the fill. You know what, let me just save this. I like the planar tool with this fill, and the crease. What else I use? I guess this is about it. And the drag tool. I guess I already mentioned that. So without further ado, I'm just going to do some work. And if you have any questions about sculpting in general, I'll be very happy to help out. Let's drag this out because I like this over here. I'm really happy with the progress I made yesterday. I was a bit stressed out with like how long I took to do this and thinking about how like I would take forever to get the back done. But it turns out that if I just choose like what priorities I want, and the priority being, let me push this in, being like just giving some standard design, a variation of the design and larger, I can finish a lot of the areas more easily. So that was a relief. So right now I'm just using the crease tool to draw. Sometimes I'll have to shake a little bit to kind of like give relief quick. Like that. I think this is too low. The resolution is quite low right now, so I'm gonna bump it up because to like maybe double the resolution, because I'm gonna keep whatever I draw as final, like that. That looks pretty nice. And then the smooth tool, just to give more resolution, just to keep it finalized. Another note is the crease tool. I have it with, is it this one? I set this to 0, the lazy row stabilizer, so that it's easier to do this. Because, oh, this shit, that's pretty nice. Because that's just how I like it. And because I'm using this more like a drawing tool instead of using it to, what do people use this for actually? Crease tool. Oh, I guess they use it more for like cutting into stuff, right? This one. Then if I'm not happy with the shapes, I'll just use the drag tool to like just nudge things around till I like the shapes. It's a good way to fix like straight lines like this because it looks inorganic. Then maybe use the planar tool to create something like this. Something like this looks nice. Also, I have to be mindful that I'm not adding detail to the bottom. So keeping in mind that when I bring this into Blender to render it out, that most probably the camera is going to be like here or here. So if this detail is right like this, I'll either just push it out a bit, or maybe like rotate it out a bit so that's more visible, like that. Or I'll just leave it alone and just not bother with it anymore. So I'm just cutting this away because it's too thick. I like to use the flatten tool too, just to like flatten things out. Just being mindful that I'm not adjusting this too much, which I did, so or I can just trim it away. But it's a little bit hard because there's a lot of things going on. So maybe I'll just stick with the flatten tool or brush. So with dynamic topology, I can do quite a lot of things on the go without worrying about the final. Can probably just leave it like this or just clean it up a bit with a large flattened brush like this. It's probably not the most ideal way to work with a sculpt, but it has been the most fun way for me to do my sculpts, and I find that I've been sculpting so much using dynamic topology that I kind of just prioritize quantity over what is actually the correct workflow. So something like this. Still need to get used to talking while sculpting. So that's a straight line in this angle. I'm just going to push things around. Although it's not really super important because it's at the bottom, like this. So something like this is good because let's say if I want to do a render shot of the details like this, it's visible, so it's not a waste of time to do this. In the previous live stream, I feel like I was pretty slow because it was just like tedious work of the one. Maybe I just use the crease to create something like this. Because previous live stream I was working on cleaning up all these things, so now that that's done, now today is just the fun part of finishing up. So I like to jump around just to give myself motivation. Just have to be mindful too that dynamic topology has to be switched on for every object that you have in the scene. But that's why I have it keyed to my macropad like this, because it's just easier to switch it on and off when I need to. So let me maybe, I want to be mindful to keep these areas here. Or something nice with dynamic topology too, I can just erase this later on. But yeah, I want to try and keep these relatively empty, partly from the reason of like if I want to save time whenever I can, because I tend to work pretty slow. So if I want to produce more work, I figure that I need to find ways to be faster this year. So it's just like picking my battles, choosing what is important and what is less important. I think the other reason I wanted to make tutorials because on my as I was picking up Nomad Sculpt and learning how to kind of like draw on 3D space, I realized that there are a lot of tutorials on stylized and cute and simple things, but not so much on this kind of artworks like this. So since I feel like I'm pretty comfortable with how I work right now, I want to make some contributions in the future. But it is quite scary to make videos. So I want to, let me see. I think this is all right. Because this area here is pretty close to this super large space. Right now I'm thinking about if I want to make this blend with the outside. Like, do I add more details here and keep this separate? Like a piece of fabric, or I can add some details here. Both ways can work. And there's kind of like not really any right and wrong. But as long as it looks good to me, I'll just keep whatever I try and experiment with. So this experiment is working out well. I think it blends well with this area. So I'll keep it like that. Just giving some nice textures like this. This one goes in. So I probably will want to do I want to cut this out? Or maybe this looks quite pretty. In some sense, I'm doing a lot of scribbles this way and just like messing around with the sculpt and keeping whatever of which I feel looks good. So there's nothing else much to it besides that. This is quite thick, so I think I'll just cut it like this and flatten away. I like to use the trim too to cut out large chunks. It's kind of like using the marquee tool in painting. Is it marquee tool? No. So this one. This part is quite hidden, so I'll just keep it. Honestly, I'm not really that comfortable with finishing this up by this stream, but I'll try my best so that I can. Let me put this. Let me put this. I want to keep the details in here, so I want it to be visible like this. Like, I'll do my best to try to keep the shapes large enough so that I can finish everything first, and then I can do the demonstration for the lesson that I want to impart for today. So this one. Sometimes I'll encounter happy accidents like this, where like I didn't intentionally draw that, but it looks nice when I start moving things around. Because this is a 3D space, it's really important to make sure that things look good at all angles. I'm probably saying the same thing over and over again in every stream, but that's just like, all these things are just like basic ideas coming together to over time create something more complicated and what. Okay, more complicated and refined. Maybe that's the word that I want. My hope for today's stream will be to just be able to move around or work on things faster today, because I'm working on like bigger shapes. Although it's really simple to get distracted and like just go overboard with everything. But that's why I keep thinking to myself that I need to focus on the bigger picture. So this one's almost done. I just want to add like random lines like this so that it looks more detailed without putting too much effort. And now this one is done, although I don't like this shape being so even. So let's just fix this up real quick. With the drag tool and the barrel roll, I like to use it to kind of like turn things underneath itself like this, and turning in, you can see like it creates this nice indentation like that. It's really cool. I'm always very amazed with Nomad Sculpt and what it's capable of. Let me see. Probably can just... Do I want to leave this as it is? So I don't really like this, but I don't really want to work on it too much. So... Maybe I'll just do the same thing. Like... something like this. Because the inside is not that important, but OCPD, like what to do. Okay. So now that I'm done with this part, it's just about fixing the overall shape. And with that, using the drag tool again, I'll deactivate the dynamic topology because I want to work from a further away distance. And if I do that, you can see the resolution disappears. So switch that off, and then let's work on just like fixing the overall flow of this. From far away. The things that I try to keep note of is just like not seeing straight lines. So I'm looking at this area right now, and I don't want it to go onto this. This is also starting to be a little bit too straight. Just being careful. Also, like large shapes like this looks quite blocky. So drag tool is a simple way to do something like this, just to refine the shapes. Also being mindful that pushing things around, you have to look at the different angles to make sure that they don't look too bad. Just add some resolution with this by drawing over with the smooth brush with dynamic topology on. This one's quite big, so let's move this about. Dynamic topology will be activated or deactivated on individual brushes, which is really useful because sometimes I only need to have it off when, let me see, to have it off for just like one brush, and it tends to be for, which one? For the drag tool or the move tool. So like, so far it has been just very intuitive to use it. Okay, so not really sure if I'm happy with the overall shape of this. So I'll adjust the one at the bottom just to give it more space. Just cleaning this area up like this. See, isn't this quite pretty? Doing something like that. I can kind of predict that if someone were to ask me about a question regarding sculpting, would be kind of like what decisions I make when I'm drawing around like this. And I guess honestly I would say that it's based on intuition, because I've been drawing. I started out as a 2D artist more than a 3D artist, and even though I'm not really that great at drawing people or painting my own paintings, I like to draw patterns and really detailed patterns. So you can see that showing up here. They're just from years of experimenting with drawing patterns. Just something that I like to do. I realize that there are a lot of things that are boring to other people, which I really enjoy. And I'm just happy that I can transfer this kind of, like, in some sense, something that is interesting to me and only me, into my 3D stuff. So this probably is good enough for now. Then just finish this up before I move on to other areas. So that's probably enough. Let's sharpen this area here. Maybe I'll just switch things up. Use the Planar tool like this. And then smooth tool to add resolution, so that I can keep these things as intentional design. Something like this. I like the ridges that gets formed accidentally when I draw with the Planar tool. Still trying to get used to Planar tool because I've only started using it this week. I think so far it's so good. There's still some stuff which I don't understand, like what's going on. Like I'm not really sure like why sometimes I can get these nice patterns and why sometimes I can't. But I don't really need to understand it that much too. As long as it looks nice to me, it really doesn't matter that much. So this is kind of like dangerously at the border of being too small, and maybe I'll just keep it for now, or I can just make it bigger like this. So this one is done now. Let's move on to something else. This one. I think this looks pretty nice, and then smooth it out to retain the details. Then I can cut into this with the Planar tool again and push it down so that it looks like a ridge. I mean, like a piece of cloth over. Something like that. Like instantly it looks cleaner than something like this. And then maybe Crease tool. Sometimes it doesn't really matter if the inside is messy, but I find it helpful to kind of like figure out what to do with this if the inside makes a bit more sense, like this. And sometimes instead of adding more detail, I'll just build up on existing ones and then let's push this down to hide the areas that has less detail. Just small things like this to save some time so that I can spend the time elsewhere. So hopefully today will be a lot faster than the previous few streams where I'm still like really I mean, I'm still figuring out how to do things, but at least today is one. I was thinking like, do I live stream today? Because I've been feeling like my progress has been pretty slow. But after yesterday's sculpting session, I was like, you know what, today's one's going to be faster. So it's probably going to be more interesting, or at least it'll be easier for me to talk about my process as I'm sculpting, so that you can follow along and hopefully understand a little bit of what I'm doing. Isn't this so pretty? The goal of all these sculpting stuff is just to make things look pretty. Doesn't really have to make sense. Then maybe I'll just like use the planar tool. See, sometimes it's straight, like flat out, and sometimes it does this. I still don't know like what is like what triggers this and what triggers that. But maybe that's going to be the beauty of the planar tool, because I don't know what the hell is going on. And it will just be like pleasant surprises for me. Sometimes I like to use it on the sides too, but then sometimes it messes up, so maybe not. Maybe I'll just do this. It's still a little bit too like clean, so I'm just going to add something like this and maybe something like that, and straight line. So doing a large brush with dynamic topology not activated. There's also something about sculpting outside in public working spaces, because the gym that I go to, they have a lot of tables for you to do work at. But I guess there's something about doing things in public spaces where like I kind of feel guilty if I work really slow for some reason. Like maybe that's like a feeling of like, wow, I don't want to do shit work outside. But because of that, I could kind of like focus on doing things a lot faster, if that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. So this part is quite hidden and not really important. And let's say if I do like a lighting, this is just a simple lighting setup with 1, 2, 3 lights. So this is good enough. It's also pretty hidden, so it's just not important to work on it. Although I don't like this shape. So let me fix that shape. Something like this, more organic. More organic and yes. Just making sure this one flaps over like this. But how far do I want this to go up? Maybe I'll just make it go up a bit from this angle like this. Although it's not that important. Okay, so that's done. Maybe I'll just do like simple just so that it's not incredibly flat. So something looks good. And that's it for this section. Well, we are like blazing through today. If only every day is like this. I wish. I also say that I want to, let me see. So areas like this where it's low poly, can see like the polygons are creating this distorted mesh. And if I use dynamic topology with a very high percentage, it will kind of retain this, which I don't want. So for large areas like this, I'll bring down the percentage just to create a smooth section like this. And just being mindful that I don't destroy those areas that I've already touched. I also have the solo button here. It's very helpful for areas with intersections. And then this part is pretty much done yesterday, but probably want to integrate this section a little bit. And maybe just intentionally blend different areas together. Something like this. There's a straight line here, so just using the barrel roll to push things in like this. There's a lot of stretching here, so I'll just smooth it out. It's a little bit, let me bring this back up. It's a little bit too chunky right here. So I'm going to bring this underneath itself. And now it looks just make it look cleaner. See, I like these bridges created by the Planar brush. That's why I decided to use a high percentage and smoothing out so that I can keep these details like this. This part, maybe I just need to add a little bit of something like this just to make it cleaner. And then here Maybe something like this to integrate these two spaces together. And hide this underneath. There's a risk of this shape over here to being too rectangle, is that the word? So just making sure that it at least gets like wider and thinner, and it tapers off and maybe gets wide again. Just giving some variation is super simple and super quick too. Even sometimes like squeezing like this. Ever since doing the how to make a rose tutorial, I've been liking doing this kind of things. Kind of like making flower petals. It's really fun. There's something like this. Making sure that I'm also looking at the side view. Honestly, I don't really know what the intention for live streaming this kind of stuff is, because this is pretty artistic, I guess. Like, what to say? Like very situational. But I guess I hope that there'll be someone out there who's interested in this kind of things, so that there'll be more people doing this kind of stuff out there. So this one is done. There's a little bit of a messy area here. Can use the flatten tool to just flatten it out like this. And that's that for this area. This area, if I smooth it out, it's gonna retain all these like low poly shapes. So same thing. Reduce the resolution and smooth it away. Being careful about the edges. It would be a lot simpler to do this when the edges are not drawn yet, but I don't know how to get my priorities straight. So rip what I saw. Yeah. Okay, so something like this, I want to keep it. So increase the resolution and then going in like this, and then that's good. This one, I want this to, I'm not really sure what I want to do with this one. Okay, so this one's a bit tricky, because I mean, as usual, everything can go multiple ways. Like, does this go inward? Does it go out? But I think because I like the way this looks, so I'm gonna push it out towards me. Push it out towards me, and then this part is hidden. Does this show up on the other side? And that's about it for this section. Smooth it out to keep the resolution. Remember to save. And then there's a straight line here. Just move it out. Constantly reminding myself to not go in too much, because I need to keep things large. So this part bends like this, and it works well with what I drew. So I'm gonna, this would be so-called like the edge of the cloth. So I'm gonna keep it that way, but I need to keep it like messy in a neat way. See, if I don't like something, I'll just keep undoing until I find something that I like. Sometimes when the edges become really thin, it kind of makes it hard to work with. So just making sure that it's not too thin. Sometimes, like let's say if there's a, oops, sometimes there's a, like a straight line like this, a point. If you draw with the crease tool over the middle, like this, sometimes it can create a nice like fold over. A very simple way to create lots of details that way. See, something like this. I can also smooth out the areas that I don't like from it, or drag tool to adjust the shapes like this. So this is a nice ridge. I'm not really sure whether I want to keep this, but I probably want to. Let's just, even though it doesn't really make sense, let's create a second ridge like this. Second ridge. And then it's looking a little bit big. So Planar tool. See, it's so pretty to do this. But I don't really know what triggers it. At this point, I'm really just relying on luck to do the different things. And if I'm not getting it, let's keep this. If I'm not really getting it, I'll just push my way into it. Okay. Something like this. When working on ambiguous shape, it's very easy to lose sight of where the top is, so this is quite useful. Because like let's say this is the back side, then I'll want to fix this shape. So it's more important to fix this one, but because the angle is like this is really working out very well. I'll just keep it as it is, because I kind of doubt that the camera will be right here. But I'll just quickly fix it too. Just keep things clean. Something like that looks more refined. Okay, so this one is done. Let's blur this out so that it's not too distracting. It's very distracting to have all these low poly areas once I start working on them. Let me look at this. Sometimes the mesh sucks, so maybe I'll use the inflate tool to fix the mesh. I want to keep the resolution there. Sometimes I spend a bit too much time fixing things like that. And then let's go over this section. Where's this? Oh, I see. It's this one. I think it looks nicer like this. Oops, forgot to. So this one is done. Not sure. I guess I didn't really work on this. So I probably want to keep this. I want to keep this. And refine this section when it's so blocky. Luckily the lines are quite simple. Now I go back to this and just like sharpen the look of this. This is a really simple way to add detail like this. And that's almost all for this section. This looks a bit awkward, so I will push this. And this one's quite big. And I want to retain it, so that's good. Oh, I see, I haven't really touched on this one. Okay, so let's work on finishing this part up. Sometimes overlapping like this will give a nice curve like this. And then I'll draw from here, go down, make sure that it looks good on the other angles too. Because even if it looks good on one angle, it might suck on the other. So just fixing the areas that sucks. Sometimes it really just doesn't work out, so I'll just redo it. Straight line. Let me see. Oh wow, it's a really big straight line. Let's push. I guess I'll push. Let me see. This is the top view. I guess if I push it this way, it looks nice. So I'll keep it. Yeah, this is nice. See, like, it have to be aware of where the point is. But I like this, so maybe I'll just fix it like that. There are many ways to fix a problem. You just need to be, how do you call it, flexible. So like this, like that. It looks nice. That looks nice too. This part looks so blocky. Let's just move things out. Or maybe I'll just flatten things out to create the planes. Like this. And then maybe Planar tool. This is the back side of the skirt, so I really shouldn't be spending too much time on this. So something like that. And then smooth out the other side. Something like this should be good enough. But maybe I'll just see, it appears again. I don't really know when it appears and when it doesn't. But I'll welcome it anytime it appears. This part is quite a lot. Maybe I will just clean this up a bit. Sometimes it's a lot faster to exaggerate something that already exists. Then I don't really need to think too much about what to do from scratch. Okay, so something like this. Still a little bit too clean for me. So I just push things around like that. And from far, this looks quite awkward. So do this, but it still looks quite awkward. Maybe I'll just flatten it. Okay, so this part is done. This part is a little bit, just needs a little bit more over here. Let me see. I guess I'll push this. Maybe I'll push this. I'm gonna rotate this inward. Suddenly it looks a lot better. Yeah, a lot better now, without doing that much. And then this one goes in like this. And shaky hands. Okay, that looks good. Except it's a little bit too. We just can't let things go. Okay, so this part, let me make it go in a bit more. Go in that side. It's really so thick. Where else? This one. It really feels like it's never ending. But the end will be near soon. You see, like, it just appears out of nowhere. And now it's straight. How do you function? Such a mystery. So something like this might look nice. It's a bit too even. Man, I can't figure this out. Well, if I can't figure something out, then I'll just change the brush. Okay, something like this. Let's... something... giving a variation of sometimes like going two ways like this, or going out and then in. It gives different vibes. It looks so much cleaner like this. Then this part, I want to fix it a little bit so that it flows better this way. Making sure that it looks good in different angles. Like sometimes when I can't figure out what to do, I'll just rotate to a different angle and fix like really obvious problems at that angle. And sometimes that's like a really quick way to like, I don't know, like just see like this. I don't like this one, but now I don't really know what to do with this, so I'm going to rotate and like, oh, this doesn't really flow that nicely, and suddenly it's a lot better. Oh my god, suddenly it's a lot better this way. So in, out, 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 in. Just giving more detail where I can that is not, and then squeeze this. Sometimes it gets hard to work with areas with, because the camera pivots around where you first touch. So sometimes I'll accidentally like rotate at a different pivot point.